Our story today is about the fighter within you. When we're talking about the fighter in you, we're not talking about violence. For us, fighting is about fighting for the people that you care about and the people around you. Caring when others can't or won't, or it doesn't make sense to care. Believing in them when they repeatedly fail. Because people are worth fighting for. To be a fighter is doing the right thing when nobody's looking. To be a fighter is making the right decision when it's really hard to do. To be a fighter is to stand for what's right and never compromise. Our story is about the fighter in all of us. The parents raising their children to become responsible adults. First responders going into dangerous situations to save our family, our children, our parents. The teachers who paved the way for our students to become leaders, one student at a time. And most of all, our story is for the fighter that lives within you.
The fighter within all of us is not necessarily something that we create, but rather something we discover. As we really get to know our true selves, we learn about our abilities, we learn about what we care about, and we learn how to take those things that are really a part of who we are and thrust them into the fire. And when we do that, that's when we're able to make a difference. Now, to inspire us and give us an example of what this looks like, we are going to the great city of Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm going to introduce you to a friend of mine who's a great fighter. His name is Guy Wells. He's the president and owner of Wells Cargo Construction. The story of how he fought for the company, on how that fight cascaded down into the culture and touched the lives of his people, is the basis of our story today.
So generationally, I grew up in what I call an old school family. The father, the stay-at-home mom, and my dad was a pretty hardcore businessman. Very well respected, don't get me wrong, very well respected, but very intimidating and very direct and very much upfront and in your face. This is where I learned my leadership from. It's the only leadership that I really knew. I was about 23 when I started at the company. You can see I'm not 23 anymore. I was about 35 when my dad made me president of the company. So I was pretty young and given a lot of responsibility at a very young age, which again leads into where's the fight in you to become something that you don't think you can become. As a manager, as a young leader, there was a lot of things that I didn't know, that I had to learn. My dad used to call it baptism by fire. Throw me in the fire and see how I did. I made a lot of mistakes early on and was misguided, misled. Ultimately, I knew who I wanted to be. I didn't know how to get there. And as a product of that, we struggled with morale. I struggled with how to lead people efficiently and effectively while I was still fighting within myself. And that period of time was just a difficult period of time. The people in the company weren't necessarily connected. There was backbiting, which aren't productive and healthy for a company. The one thing that I knew is that this company was worth fighting for, number one, and number two, something had to change. My parents, my mom and dad, were the majority owners of the company. I knew that I had to get to a point where I could own the company and run it the way that, unfettered by the diversity of ownership, the diversity of ideas, and where other people thought that the company should go. And at that point, and to this point, I am the only one that had spent 27 years working in the company. And I went to my parents originally, probably about 2010, and offered to buy them out, and they said no. In 2011, my parents decided that their decision was they were going to give the company to each one of the kids 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. That was the whole catalyst that got us into the legal battle that was a 15-year dispute, was divided ownership. I said, all I want is the ability to run this company the way that I think it needs to be run without anybody else in it with me. I am not asking you for any of your personal assets. You write me out of everything. All I want is the ability to buy and run the company the way that I think it needs to be run. I was coming at it from a me standpoint instead of a them standpoint. And it was pivotal for me to change and look at things in a different light. If I bought the company, what it would mean for me, what it would mean for my family, what it would mean for my future. And when I shifted, I got to see it through their eyes. And really what they wanted to know is, what will this do for them? Not what will do for me, what will it do for them? They said, okay. And subsequently, I bought the company. That's when I stepped into the fight. Now I have a company. I got my wish. Be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it. And I bought a company that was failing financially. I bought a company that was failing morally. And I bought a company that was truly failing their customers. And I went to my father. He was now out of the company. And I said, hey, Dad, I need a bond for a project. And he said, okay. I said, will you co-sign on it for me? And he said, absolutely not, son. You bought the company. So I knew at that point that something had to drastically change. We had payroll every single week. And that was the fight. I had to figure out how to pay my people. People around me started seeing the change in me, and they're like, maybe I don't want to be here. And as difficult as it was, and again, here's the fight coming up, as difficult as it was for me, people started leaving. And as they left, new people are coming forward that see things like I see things. We start to create who we are in the people around us. And I redefined myself into my true self, and those people started showing up over and over and over again. And that's when I started to recognize there is a cultural shift in the company that I won't begin to take credit for, because the cultural shift happened with me and around me. So in that shift, the company was redefined and became really the company that it is today, and the company that I always knew it could be. And the people here love working here, enjoy working here. I have never had a better time in my life professionally to be honored and to be humbled to be able to lead the company and the people that I currently lead. I am truly blessed.
It's very evident that Guy Wells fought to give people second chances. That's why he took the company over. Now you're going to meet one of his people who had to also make the decision to give himself a second chance. His name is Sammy, and his story is moving. And you're going to see from Sammy's story the power of fighting for second chances.
Sammy Miranda. Sammy's dad, Art, was a lifelong employee, spent his whole life raking asphalt for us until he retired. And Sammy went on a little bit different journey than his dad. An unfortunate journey, if you may, but still, it was his journey. Art was one of the kindest people that ever was. I mean, he came out, he worked his tail off, he never had anything bad to say about anybody. He was just a good man. And Sammy came to work and fell into some trouble.
And I started working here. I was 18 years old. I was going to court at that time. I faced a serious charge where I could have been there all day. I'd take a couple hours off, I'd go to court, and I'd come back to work.
Art came to me and asked me if I could help Sammy, and I said, "What do you need from me?" And he said, "Would you write a letter to the court on behalf of Sammy before his sentencing?" And I said, "Of course I will." I still don't know what he did or what he was sentenced for. I just felt like here's a young man that because of his dad, he was worth fighting for.
I always kept that letter. You know, years went by, 27 years old, high every day, on my way back to prison, dodging bullets. I had been in a dope house. I had already been up for like 3 days, high, hitting that pipe for 3 days, hitting like there was no tomorrow. I was caught up in a certain lifestyle. I didn't want to live no more. I was a walking time bomb at times, and there I was in this apartment complex, and I heard a voice speaking to me. I left this dope house. I walked down the street. Like I said, I had been high for days. I had a whole different look to me. I had a whole different talk to me. I had a whole different walk. And I ended up in the middle of an intersection. It was about 12 or 1 o'clock in the morning. And when I got to that intersection, in the intersection, it was like I hit a brick wall. That night was a night that changed my life forever. I looked up into the sky, and my exact words were, "God, if you really exist, if you're really real, change my life, take it all away." A few minutes went by, and I guess somebody might have called the police or something. You know, they surrounded me. And pulled out their guns. Get down, you know. They put me in a straitjacket, took me to the hospital. And that morning, I remember they released me. At that time, my parents, they only had one car. And I remember my dad coming to get me. And when I came out of the hospital right there that morning, my dad loved me so much that he pulled up on a bike to get to the hospital, on a pedal bike. I remember going home with him, and for 3 days, I stayed locked up in that room in my dad's house. I remember I opened the front door, and I remember when I opened the front door, everything was different. I looked out and everything was bright. I felt a peace. My mind was pure, it felt different. I believe that the Spirit of God was working in me. I came back to Wells Cargo, refreshed. I was 27 years old. Mr. Wells gave me this opportunity the Wells family. You know, during this time, I got married. I met my wife, Maria. We got 3 beautiful children. We got 3 girls together, 3 beautiful children. And, you know, I'm blessed. I've been blessed to be here all these years.
It's evident when you look at Sammy's story. He fought for a second chance. Now you're going to meet another employee at Wells Fargo by the name of Jimmy. Jimmy is a real cartoon character. But what you're going to see in Jimmy's story is the power of fighting for forgiveness.
But Wells Fargo is a family to me. I mean, I work with, I would say hands down, the best people in the industry. And as much as we harass each other and we're brothers and sisters with each other, that we love each other and we spend more time usually with each other than we do our families at times. And it's a beautiful place to work. I can't explain it any other way. I mean, from the support from the office now that I'm in management to the support from my guys in the field, like, it's just crazy how well we work, and we're a well-oiled machine, and we've been through ups and downs. I was running a crawler crane to do a simple load, and I didn't expand the track, so it makes the base bigger on the crane, and I got my boom past center, and the crane went over on the counterweight. And the scariest thing about that thing is I couldn't see, because we kept all the rock shields on the crane. I couldn't see. We had 2 Teamsters that were standing right there, and I get chills every time I talk about that. 5 seconds, whatever that was, till I knew those Teamsters came over to there where I could see them. I thought I killed them. And yeah, I mean, it's, again, these people we work with, and these are families, and yeah, I thought I killed them. And when they came out and I seen they were okay, like, I didn't care at that point. Like, whatever happened, happens. And I walked into Guy right after we got the crane righted and all that stuff, and I walked in there, and he goes, "Jayla, you know how much money you effing cost me?" And he was mad, and he goes, "Get out of my face," or whatever he said. And he says, "Just take the week off." And I'm like, okay. And when I got back, back to work, he called me into his office, and he goes, "Jimmy, I'm sorry for the way I talked to you." He goes, "I should never have talked to you that way." And I'm looking at him like, "God, you had every freaking right to talk to me that way." Like, there's no, I mean, I laid over a crane, you know what I mean? Like, it just, and no other place will you get that.
Our story today is about being a fighter, fighting for what's right and fighting for those around us that we care about, and fighting for ourselves to make the right decisions, to do the right things. Whether we're fighting for people that make mistakes, people who need second chances, we make a difference. This gives our lives meaning and purpose, like very few things in life can. That's why our story today is dedicated to the fighter in you, because some things are worth fighting for.
My fighter transformed from early childhood, and as I was brought up, fighter to me was a physical fight. And as I matured, I recognized that the fighter was an emotional fight within me, not outside of me, not with other people, not being mean, arrogant, obnoxious, rude. Really, the foundation of the fight is to find out who you are and who you need to be for the world to see you for who you really are.